Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
It is now 9:02. There is new information overnight. Action News gathered that new information about a shooting in Philadelphia's Germantown neighborhood. Police tell us a 17-year-old victim has died. And adding to this heartbreak, officers saying his 9-year-old half-brother is the one who shot and killed him. This all happened in the 300 block of East Ashmead Street.
Did you hear that? I want you guys to hear what this man just said with a straight face. No opinion. He didn't go off script. He just said it how it was. You got a 9-year-old boy, 9-year-old super gremlin, that is, takes out 17-year-old half-brother.
Adding to this heartbreak, officers saying his 9-year-old half-brother is the one who shot and killed him. This all happened in the 300 block of East Ashmead Street. Investigators say yesterday afternoon, the two were playing video games when the 17-year-old started bullying and harassing the 9-year-old.
So they're playing 2K or Madden or whatever game, GTA, who knows. And the 17-year-old takes it too far, starts bullying is what they call it. Maybe he puts hands on the 9-year-old boy. Who knows? And, you know, this 17-year-old boy really might be a problem because if you know in the Communitah, these dudes, they don't care if it's a kid. They don't care. They'll beat a kid up like they beat a grown man up. And the bullying is real in the Communitah. I'm telling you that because I know. So this 9-year-old really might have been moving in self-defense. Or he might have just got fed up of whatever he was going through. But I wouldn't put it past this 17-year-old kid to have provoked this situation.
Well, that's when police say that 17-year-old threatened the child with a BB gun. Investigators say somehow that 9-year-old child found a handgun and then shot his half-brother.
Dang. So the 17-year-old threatened him with a BB gun, and he said, forget this. I'll call your bluff, and I got a real strap. And he shot him. Shot him. And this is why you can't be pointing guns at people. I don't care if it's a Nerf gun, a BB gun, a water gun. I don't care. Okay? I really don't. Maybe he knew it was BB gun. Maybe he knew it was fake. But BB guns can do damage. They can kill. They can knock eyes out. They can inflict heavy harm. Okay? They can crack skulls. BB guns can do damage. And he really might have seriously threatened that 9-year-old with shooting him, which could definitely kill a 9-year-old boy. So he said, forget it. I'm going to get the real strap. And it's on.
That 17-year-old threatened the child with a BB gun. Investigators say somehow that 9-year-old child found a handgun and then shot his half.
And it reminds me of the Tamir Rice situation. You know, everybody's talking about Tamir Rice, and it's like, bro, he was aiming a gun at everybody in the street, aimed it at police, and he got shot. Same situation here. You got a 17-year-old super gremlin aiming a BB gun at his 9-year-old brother. 9-year-old has taken enough of the punishment from this 17-year-old, and he had enough, and he pulled the strap.
Brother, that teenager later died at the hospital. This morning, police working to figure out who that gun belonged to and whether that 9-year-old will be charged.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Ketanji Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Philadelphia police are investigating an overnight homicide that was especially violent. A man was sitting in his car when someone opened fire, riddling the vehicle with bullets. Investigators say more than 30 shots were fired, leading them to only one conclusion. They say this was an execution.
Wow. And this is a regular thing in Philly. Philly has surpassed Chicago in murders. They've reached their 100th murder, and we're going to do a story on that. And it doesn't look like it's getting better.
Action News reporter Corey Davis has the story.
So this appears to be an execution due to the fact that the car is hit so many times, and this victim is hit multiple times in the head, face, and his torso.
Chief Inspector Scott Small describes a gruesome murder along the 1900 block of North 32nd Street in the city's Strawberry Mansion section.
Shell casings are all over the highway, both sides of the street.
Small says police real-time crime cameras captured the shooting. He tells us the footage shows 3 suspects surrounding this red car and opening fire around 1:30 this morning.
And what can you do about that? These super gremlins, they're very sneaky. They sneak up on your car. You don't even see them. Your rearview mirrors aren't going to see them. Your side mirrors aren't going to see them. And he got caught lacking.
So it appears that these shooters were firing into this vehicle from every direction. But the vehicle was hit at least 15 times by gunfire. We know 31 shots were fired.
Officers and medics found the victim dead behind the wheel with the engine still running. Police say he appears to have been in his mid-20s. Today, we spotted a large number of Philadelphia police officers patrolling the area. In a span of roughly 10 minutes, we counted nearly a dozen police cruisers on the street and on neighboring blocks. Some people who live in the area tell us there have been shootings in the past, and now they're wondering what it will take for the violence to stop. Reporting here in Strawberry Mansion, Corey Davis, Channel 6 Action News.
Tonight, multiple shootings, including a teen violence in the city of Philadelphia. Tonight, multiple shootings, including a teenager and a man now fighting for his life in the hospital. And Chris, you were awfully close to one of those shootings.
Yeah, Dawn, when I heard the gunshots tonight here in the thick of Center City, I honestly knew our assignment would take a different turn. An 18-year-old man is shot tonight, the latest victim in what has been a epidemic of gun violence that police are trying to get a handle on. Philadelphia police detectives working their 10th shooting in 2 nights.
say less.
The latest in a busy Center City parking lot near 8th and Market Streets, where someone in a group opened fire, hitting an 18-year-old man who was shot in the foot. Several cars also struck.
There was a group of kids that ran through this parking lot from west to east, and the shots were heard from numerous people at the crowd of people. So we're not sure someone in that crowd was shooting or someone's being chased, but we're looking for video at this point to try to make a determination of what happened here tonight.
An officer with the Philadelphia Parking Authority found the teenager hiding in a nearby parking garage after being shot.
How was that kid?
He was all right. He was scared. He was scared, a little shaken up. But once I got there with him and I told him he was going to be all right, he seemed to calm down a little bit.
Just a few hours earlier, those same detectives were investigating a double shooting on the 1900 block of East Washington Lane. A 21-year-old man was shot in the arm and legs. A 28-year-old man was shot once in the head, last listed in critical condition. It's the
Dang. I mean, it is going down in Philly, bruh. This is gruesome.
These kinds of non-fatal shootings is the reason why a new Philadelphia police task force was recently established.
Is a problem we're struggling with, but we just need to, again, work together as a community, as a whole, as a city, and try to get these people to understand that taking your anger and aggression out with a weapon doesn't solve anything. It not only hurts an individual who's in the hospital now. If we catch the person, that person will clearly do jail time.
So far, no arrest in either of those shootings. But since the formation of that new gun violence task force, police tell us that arrests are starting to climb. Dawn.
All right, some good news. Thank you, Chris. Well, 2021 was a record-breaking year for homicides in Philadelphia, and sadly, 2022 is keeping pace as the city has already hit its 100th murder. And only on Fox 29, our Kelly Rule talked to the family of the victim of the 100th murder. She's live in Spring Garden. Kelly.
Yeah, Dawn, family members identified this victim to us as 28-year-old Brahim Bar. They tell me he was engaged, a father of 3, and was simply trying to go to work at the time. Police sources tell me tonight they believe the motive in this case was robbery.
Wow. And it's crazy because we talk all this brotherhood stuff in the Communitah. You got a black man. He's working, just doing what he got to do to make ends meet, to feed his kids. And these super gremlins run up on him on demon time.
Unnecessary.
Why did you do it?
Like, why would you do that to him? He was only 28.
Lorraine Barr comforts the fiance of her nephew, Brahim Barr. The family identified him as the 28-year-old man shot and killed in West Philadelphia Thursday night, a soon-to-be husband and father of 3, studying to be a nurse.
He just wanted to take care of people. Brahim loved people. Hardworking, bothers nobody, will give you the shirt off of his back, will do anything for his family. He wouldn't hurt a soul.
Philadelphia police say the shooting happened just before 11 p.m. on North 53rd Street near Arch Street. Barr's family says he worked 3 jobs and was simply walking to his car to go to work. Police sources tell Fox 29 they believe the motive was robbery, and sources believe the shooter took Barr's firearm that he legally owned, his holster empty when officers got to the scene.
Dang. So this is a real thing going on where these super gremlins are so bold that they're running up on people with guns and stealing the guns. I showed you that video in Atlanta where the 14-year-old super gremlin tried to steal the gun from the brother and they got in a shootout at the gas station. So these super gremlins are so bold that they will literally try and take the gun from your holster. This is next level demon time.
Neighbors heard the chaos.
3 succession shots, then a hesitation, and then 3 more. It's unfortunate.
He's not just going to be another homicide. This family would like any answers that we can possibly get.
And, you know, I heard what she said. He's not just going to be another homicide, and definitely to the family, he's not going to be. But to the Communitah, all he is unfortunately the 100th homicide in Philadelphia. Okay? And I guarantee if you look at how many people were killed and what percentage of those people are black, probably look like how that New Orleans brother was speaking. 96%. Since it's Philly, a little more diverse, I would say at least 85%. At the least. So it's sad. I mean, this guy, there's not going to be a national outcry over his killing. There just isn't. I wish that there was, but it's not going to happen. Not from the Communitah. Not when we still have these sisters out here who are advocating for criminal justice reform and bail reform and laws to make it harder for police officers to pull over criminals in Philadelphia that was passed by the city council. And that was a brother who did that. So we've got the representation. We've got, you know, the political prowess and the political power, but this problem continues to persist.
To put those away who did this to him. because he did not deserve it.
Barr's death marks the 100th homicide in 2022 in Philadelphia, following a historically deadly 2021 that saw more than 560 murders. On Twitter, Commissioner Danielle Outlaw wrote in part, quote, PPD will continue to utilize every resource we have to stem this tide of violence and will not rest until we bring to justice those who seek to cause harm.
Show some remorse. Turn yourself in. He didn't deserve this.
And Barr's family members tell me in just the past 2 years, he lost both of his parents. His father passed away not even 6 months ago, so they're absolutely devastated. Police say they are still working on collecting video from the scene. They have not made any arrests, but Dawn, of course, anybody with information is asked to come forward.
So sad. All right, Kelly, thank you.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's get into the video. All right. So we have to break down this Ketanji Brown Jackson situation. The situation here. Okay. We got to break it down. First, Black female to be appointed as a Supreme Court justice. And guys, it's not looking good. Okay, make sure you guys can hear me. Hopefully you guys can hear me. It's not looking good. It's definitely starting to feel like a token hire. It's definitely starting to feel like a quota. All right, and the reason why is because when you look into her history, it looks like that she is fully qualified on paper. It looks like she is fully qualified on paper. But, you know, when you hear her speak, when you hear her being deposed by other senators, it's not looking good. Okay, so let me see. My light just went off. All right, there we go. All right, let's get into it. Without further ado, the first thing we're going to do is look at this historical nomination. Then I'm going to give you guys what the Communitah thinks of this situation. And I'm going to use another YouTuber's content. So when we get to that point, we'll shout them out. But this is what she has to say about being appointed as the first Black Supreme or female Black Supreme Court justice.
All of the talk of this historic nomination and now confirmation, I think of them as the true path breakers. I am just the very lucky first inheritor of the dream of liberty and justice.
What the hell is Biden doing? He got something in his eye?
For all.
Oh, God. Why does man Biden move in slow motion?
To be sure.
Did somebody put the video, like his whole demeanor is just slow motion, bruh. Like the man put on his glasses in 0.25 speed. Everybody was sped up but him.
I've worked hard to get to this point in my career, and
all right, so here we go. There's a picture, whatnot. Obviously, Ketanji Brown Jackson is a divester. Okay, we saw her husband. Obviously, we know who her husband is. He is a glider man, and we're not passing any judgment upon that, but just understand that yes, she is a divester. I don't know if she was listening to divester YouTube content while she was studying at Harvard Law, but it looks like she done caught on to the trend. So what we're going to do first is we're going to play the video that got her viral. Okay, the video that everybody did a reaction to, the video that everybody wanted to see. Okay, and that is when she could not define what a woman was. So we're going to break down this video. I think it's very telling as to what type of Supreme Court justice she is going to be.
But I want to go to you on something you said when you were in private practice. You made your views on pro-life and the pro-life movement very clear. And in fact, you attacked pro-life women. And this was in a brief.
Okay, so she is already got a strike here. She is not pro-life, okay? She's not pro-life. It's crazy. All right. These women, it's so crazy that these women, especially Black women, are advocating so heavily for abortion, okay? It's ridiculous. And it shows the discipline that a lot of these women have, that they want to go so hard for abortion. And before you guys come out and say, oh, well, what if she's taken advantage of? Guys, I've already broken this down. There's only like 1% of cases, less than 1% of cases, where it's a case of incest or she was, somebody took the WAP, okay? So, man, really what it is a lot of these chicks is sleeping around. They're not being responsible. They may not be on birth control and all this kind of birth control work. If you take it at the same day or at the same time every day, it works. If they miss a day, it could, hinder the cycle, whatnot. But at the end of the day, if they're taking their birth control religiously, that joint works. Condoms definitely work. You can feel when the condom breaks. You can pull out. I mean, what more do you want? The fact of the matter is, a lot of these chicks like getting cream pied in. It's just a reality, okay? And they ain't taking that Plan B pill.
That you wrote, you described them, and I'm quoting, hostile, noisy crowd of in-your-face protesters, end quote. And you advocated against these women's First Amendment right to express their sincerely held views regarding the sanctity of each individual life. And I'm a pro-life woman. 79% of the American women support restrictions of some type on abortion. And so I find it incredibly concerning that someone who is nominated to a position with life tenure on the Supreme Court holds such a hostile view toward a view that is held as a mainstream belief that every life is worth protecting. So how do you justify that incendiary rhetoric against pro-life women?
Thank you, Senator. The brief that you're referring to was a brief that I filed on behalf of clients who were clients of my law firm. This is in, I believe, 1999 or 2000, maybe 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
I was an associate at a law firm, and I had appellate experience because I had just finished my Supreme Court law clerk position. And in the context of my law firm, I was asked to work on a brief.
Dog, the way that she communicates, she never answers anything directly. She's just talking around it. It's so freaking annoying, bro. It's so annoying.
Concerning a buffer zone issue. In Massachusetts at the time, there were laws protecting women who wanted to enter clinics, and there was a First Amendment question about the degree to which there had to be room around them to enter the clinic.
Right.
And
I understand all of that. I'm asking about the rhetoric.
Senator, I drafted a brief along with the partners in my law firm who reviewed it, and we filed it on behalf of our client.
Okay.
In to advance our clients.
She's not going to answer anything directly. It's like she asked her a question and she just went over what happened but didn't answer the question.
Arguments that they wanted to make in the case.
Let me ask you this. When you go to church and knowing there are
When you go to church, y'all think Ketanji go to church? What church does Ketanji go to?
pro-life women there, do you look at them thinking of them in that way, that they're noisy, hostile, in your face? Do you think of them? Do you think of pro-life women like me that way?
Senator, that was a statement and a brief made
Okay.
an argument for my client. It's not the way that I think of or
Okay.
characterize people.
All right. Thank you for the clarification on that.
There we go. We got an answer. She said she drafted it on behalf of her client, and that's not her characterization. Well, why didn't you just say that? You talking around the whole thing, like just say it straight up.
Because I think even zealous advocacy doesn't allow that type of rhetoric on a free speech issue. You know, Roe v. Wade, let's talk a little bit about that. It's come up touch today. In my opinion, that was an awful act of judicial activism and has cost the lives of over 63 million unborn children. And nearly 50 years later, this shameful ruling remains binding precedent, but the battle is being fought in the courts. And as you know, and as we discussed when we visited, the Supreme Court is reconsidering whether the Constitution protects the right to an abortion in Dobbs. And if you're confirmed, you will be in a position to apply the court's decision in Dobbs, whatever that decision is going to be. And you've talked about following precedent and what the court decides. So do you commit to respecting the court's decision if it rules that Roe was wrongly decided and that the issue of abortion should be sent back to the states?
Senator, whatever the Supreme Court decides in Dobbs will be the precedent of the Supreme Court. It will be worthy of respect in the sense that it is the precedent, and I commit to treating it as I would any other precedent of this.
There's one other thing. One of the central issues in the Dobbs case is about whether the Constitution protects the right to an abortion. So let's talk about that. Can you explain to me on a constitutional basis the court's decision in Roe, and where is abortion protected in the Constitution?
Senator, abortion is a right that the Supreme Court has recognized in the is one of the kinds of rights that is unenumerated.
Okay.
It is in that same category of rights that the Supreme Court has recognized.
But the text of the Constitution.
She's going so hard for the right of everybody, but specifically sisters, because we know this is a black issue, okay? We know that abortion is a huge issue in the Communitah, okay? And everybody just likes to gloss over it, all right? But it's a huge issue, okay?
Constitution does not mention abortion.
That is true.
That is true. That is correct.
All right, so this is how the interview started off. So you see how they got into the context of speaking about. I'm just giving you guys everything, okay? That's how they got into the context of speaking about women. Now,
United States versus Virginia, the Supreme Court struck down VMI's male-only admission policy. Writing for the majority, Justice Ginsburg stated, supposed inherent differences are no longer accepted as a ground for race or national origin classifications. Physical differences between men and women, however, are enduring. The two sexes are not fungible. A community made up exclusively of one sex is different from a community composed of both. Do you agree with Justice Ginsburg that there are physical differences between men and women that are enduring?
she sounded like she was stumped on that question. Yo, she sounded like she was stumped on that question. And this is who all these sisters online, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys. Everybody's like, well, how do you know that everybody wanted her to be in the white? Like, bro, we gonna go into the comments section after this video. Everybody is, oh yeah, go girl, go sister girl. We done got it. We done got us one. Like, bro, y'all over here advocating for a woman who's not even gonna advocate for women. She don't even know how to define one, so she's not going to advocate for women. She's pretty much gonna be on some LGBT type of time and servicing that community, much like Obama did, okay? She's gonna be servicing that community and the likes of which comes with that community, which I ain't trying to call out the LGBT, LMNOP, but we know that a lot of the weirdos, the sexually perverted, come from that community. And she has shown a history that she is willing to defend those types of acts. And I don't even think it's just because they're chomos. I just think it's because I think it's because she is in support of LGBT, and therefore she understands that the chomo offense is more of an LGBT offense more than anything.
Senator, respectfully, I am not familiar with that particular quote or case,
Okay.
so it's hard for me to comment as to whether.
All right. I'd love to get your opinion on that, and you can submit that. Do you interpret Justice Ginsburg's meaning of men and women as male and female?
Again, because I don't know the case, I don't know how I interpret it. I need to read the whole
Okay.
thing.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
Wow. So she can't provide a definition for woman. I'll give you a hint. 2 X chromosomes.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of the word woman?
I would, if I was that woman, I would have said, do you have a pussy? You know what I mean? Like, what are you working with down there, sister? You know what I mean? What made that glider man stay with you? That's what she should have asked. And honestly, you know, we might have to bring out Umar. We might have to bring out Umar for this one.
Correct. But I would say, listen, your wife is white. So we're going to stop the black talk right
Okay. So y'all already know how the brother Umar feels about this. All right. Y'all already know how he feels about this, but he needs to talk to the divestor. He's steady talking to brothers. The divestors is coming up.
Woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the law and I decide.
And guys, the reason why this is so important that she won't answer this question is because literally we have a man who is competing with females right now in the NCAA swimming, and she is whooping ass, okay? She's purposely losing some just to make it look or seem fair. Why am I calling? This dude is purposely losing some just to make it seem fair, but then he's also just blowing him out of the water. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if my sister, I got 3 sisters. They all play basketball in high school. I loved watching the girls' basketball games. I'm not one of these guys who say, oh, I hate women's sport and shit. Like I fuck with women's sport. I don't fuck with professional women's sport, but I like high school basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I was rocking with it. And if my sisters was playing a male and he was a transformer, and say they got a transformer, he's a post and he's like 6'8", and he fouled my sister, fouled her, you know what I'm saying? A flagrant foul. We finna come up on the court and do damage. Now, if it was a woman, it'd be a little different. Okay, my sister can handle her own. She got her teammates. It's girls on girls, cool, whatever. But this is not right, y'all. It's not right. And everybody is really out here advocating for it. Like, y'all don't understand. Most people are like, oh, that would never happen. Most people wouldn't say, oh, yeah, well, we need to allow women or men to compete in female sports. Like, bro, it's happening, bro. It's happening. And if my sister lost a scholarship to a bitch ass nigga, you know what I mean? I would be hot, okay? Because those scholarships are important for women, all right? For women, not niggas who ain't good enough. You wasn't good enough in the male league, and I know what it feels like, bruh. I know what it feels like. You're competing against guys. It's hard. It's tough. Maybe you're not the tallest. Maybe you're not the strongest, so you have to develop other skills to give you an advantage. I get it, bro. I played sports all my life. I was never the tallest dude, so I worked on my speed. I worked on my strength. And I was able to perform at a high level and compete with guys who were twice my size. Why? Because I worked to get better at what I was doing. I worked in my position to gain the skills that, hey, I'm never going to be this guy, so let me be the best version of myself. When you are a male and you are transitioning to a female to compete in a sport, I don't give a fuck if you're doing it for your regular life. That's on you. If you want to, you a man and you want to turn into a bitch and you want to fuck on dudes and shit like that, it is what it is. I'm going to call you a gay man, but at the end of the day, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care. But once you try and cross that line and say, oh, I'm going to start trying to compete against other women, that's when I have a problem. Because you ain't just gonna get on the court and mollywop any of my sisters. You know what I mean? You're not finna do it. Not without me coming up on the court and having something to say about it. Okay? I can understand if it's another woman, they fighting, maybe she pushed her too hard, fouled her, it was a rough foul. But if a man does that, oh yeah, he's getting the business. He's getting the business. No matter what. All right. So it's not fair. It's not safe. And it's just wrong, bro. It's just wrong. And I did a story on because I play SEC football. It was a kicker, a female kicker for Vanderbilt. Sarah Fuller. Okay. Sarah Fuller. And I'm not trying to highlight or single her out, but she was a kicker for Vanderbilt. Obviously, Vanderbilt is fucking trash. Okay? Obviously, Vanderbilt is fucking trash. All right? But she was a kicker for Vanderbilt. And, it is what it is. Kickers, you really don't get touched that much. But I was wanting to see her cover a kickoff and see if how she would do if people block her or whatnot. But anyways, she was the first female to kick a field goal in NCAA football. It was so fucking stupid. The field goal wasn't even that good, bruh. She damn near missed the shit. And like I said, I'm not trying to single her out, but it's so trash. It's so trash. And I guarantee there was somebody on that team who could kick better than her. I guarantee it was somebody on that team who could kick better than her. And now if you go to her Instagram, she's a retired kicker. Retired already? You kicked 2 field goals. But the reason why she retired is because she realized she didn't want that smoke. There's no way a woman is going through a real SEC football practice. Practice. You talking about practice? Yes, practice. Practice. Not a game. Not a game. Practice. Okay? I'm sick of this shit. You're not going to be able to compete. You're not him. Let me repeat. You are not him.
So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about. Just last week, an entire generation of young girls watched as our taxpayer-funded institutions permitted a biological man to compete and beat a biological woman in the NCAA swimming championships.
Yep.
What message do you think this sends to girls who aspire to compete and win in sports at the highest levels?
Senator, I'm not sure what message that sends. If you're asking me about the legal issues related to it, those are topics that are being hotly discussed.
So how is she going to identify a case of a protected class, i.e. women? How is she going to litigate that case? How is she going to be able to come to a conclusion if she won't even define what a woman is? So how will that woman be able to qualify for being under a protected class status?
As you say, and could come to the court. So I'm not able to.
I think it tells our girls that their voices don't matter. I think it tells them that they're second-class citizens, and parents want to have a Supreme Court justice who is committed to preserving parental autonomy and protecting our nation's children.
So there you have it. There you have it. She did not want to define what a woman was or is, and the Black community is none the wiser. It's honestly, it's really embarrassing. Okay, so we're getting into the comment section since people say, how do you know what the Black community thinks? Bro, the comment section is how you know. Okay, so one sister says, I love when Joe wears them glasses. She still is in support of Joe Biden. Somebody says Joe moves in slow motion. She took that from me. Everybody saying Joe moves in slow motion. Okay, I guess that's a common theme. Joe crying, he need to stop it. So they're talking about Joe Biden is eating the girls up in that suit. Okay. Joe said y'all ain't gonna catch him sleep. Man, look, they're literally making jokes about okay. So no mention of Ketanji. God dang. Okay, so this guy says, I'm glad this happened, but when are we going to get something tangible instead of symbolic? One brother says, first Black president, African and white. First Black vice president, Asian and white. First Black woman, Supreme Court judge, married white man. Y'all should wake up. So the brother sounds like he is against IR dating. So
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
All right, so we'll give him that. So we have it looks like a glider girl says delightful. Okay, so she's obviously woke. We'll see if she still feels that way after she runs into a super gremlin on Demon Time. But let's see. Here comes the misinformed hate. Definitely here for my girl, but why is Joe Biden moving slow motion to put them glasses on? Somebody says big black girl magic. Yeah, we'll see, cause Kamala ain't doing ish. This is what another woman says. Shout out to all my fellow black female attorneys and judges. This is big for us. Okay. So obviously the women are 100% behind it. One woman says, another, here you go, fools. Let's get them quiet again. Okay. This woman says, wow, did not expect to see the comments on this so full of negativity. Just be happy for the woman and move on. Okay. Yes, queen, such a momentous occasion. Or okay. So anyways, that's what that's what they have to say on it. That's the Communitah for you. Another clip that went viral in her sentencing. So obviously black people are 100% behind Ketanji, even though they have no idea what she stands on. But another clip that went viral in her questioning was a clip between her and Senator Ted Cruz, where he pressed her on her former cases involving these heinous sex crimes. So let's get into it.
Senator Cruz of Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Under Article 3 of the Constitution, federal courts have jurisdiction over only cases and controversies, which means under the Constitution it has to be an actual dispute, that federal courts cannot simply issue advisory opinions on a question they may have a view on. And one component of Article 3 jurisdiction is the requirement of standing, that in order for a plaintiff to have standing to bring a case, that plaintiff, at least generally speaking, must have a real and concrete injury. Is that right?
That is correct.
So, for example, that means that even if I might have a disagreement with some particular policy or some particular law, that I can't bring a case unless I am personally aggrieved by that policy or that law. So, for example, you're in my alma mater, Harvard, is currently being sued for its explicit and, in my view, egregious policy of discriminating against Asian Americans. Even though I think that policy is egregious, I, as an individual plaintiff, could not bring a lawsuit challenging it because I am not Asian American. Is that right?
If you brought a lawsuit,
all right,
the court would have to evaluate.
So he's setting up the question.
Whether you had an actual injury in order to be able to determine whether it had subject matter jurisdiction to hear the suit.
But if I'm not in the class being discriminated against, then I don't have the ability to bring the lawsuit. Is that right?
I think you'd have to have an actual injury. Certainly people, I think, who are in the class could claim that they had an injury for that purpose.
So now you're on the Board of Overseers of Harvard. If you're confirmed, do you intend to recuse from this lawsuit?
That is my plan, Senator.
Okay. We discussed yesterday how the standard for race discrimination was strict scrutiny. The court has laid out a different standard for gender discrimination. What is the constitutional standard that applies to gender discrimination?
Gender discrimination, the court has held intermediate scrutiny applies, which is that the government has to have an important interest, and the tailoring doesn't have to be as narrow.
Right. So yesterday, under questioning from Senator Blackburn, you told her that you couldn't define what a woman is, that you were not a biologist, which I think you're the only Supreme Court nominee in history who's been unable to answer the question, what is a woman? Let me ask you, as a judge, how would you determine if a plaintiff had Article 3 standing?
Okay, so we read the comment earlier where the black female attorney said, "This is a big W for us." If she can't even define what a woman is, why do you think that she's going to, extend her arm to help you out? Okay, she can't even define what a woman is. Why would she extend her arm to help a sister out if to her, you could be he, him? Shout out to Dub with the $5 super trap. Shout out to Dub with the $5 super trap. He says, "I have benefited and learned a lot from your content. Thank you."
Hold on. Hello? Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!
Dub with the $5 super trap. He's definitely outside.
To challenge a gender-based rule, regulation, policy without being able to determine what a woman was.
So, Senator, I know that I'm a woman. I know that Senator Blackburn is a woman, and the woman who I admire most in the world is in the room today, my mother. It sounded as though the question was...
But let me ask, under the modern leftist sensibilities, if I decide right now that I'm a woman, then apparently I'm a woman. Does that mean that I would have Article 3 standing to challenge a gender-based restriction?
Senator, to the extent that you are asking me about who has the ability to bring lawsuits based on gender, those kinds of issues are
Why is she playing with the mic? Just leave the mic alone and lean in.
working their way through the courts, and I'm not able to comment on them.
Okay, if I can change my gender, if I can be a woman, and then an hour later, if I decide I'm not a woman anymore, I guess I would lose Article 3 standing. Tell me, does that same principle apply to other protected characteristics? For example, I'm an Hispanic man. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man?
He should have said black man. It would have hit harder. Shout out to Alance, I believe. E757 with the $2 super trap. He says,
Hold on. Hello? Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!
he's definitely outside with the $2 super trap.
And challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
Senator, I'm not able to answer your question. You're asking me about hypotheticals and
Well, I'm asking you how you would assess standing if I came in and said, I have decided I identify as an Asian man.
I would assess standing the way I assess other legal issues, which is to listen to the arguments made by the parties, consider the relevant precedents, and the constitutional principles involved, and make a determination.
Okay, let's...
She never answers a question directly. So here we go. We're moving on into the thick of it.
Go back to your favorite topic of this hearing.
He say your favorite topic
is the criminal law cases you had as a district judge, and in particular the cases involving child pornography. Now, your defenders on the Democratic side of the dais and also in the press have suggested that the criticism that has been raised has been somehow cherry-picked, that it's only some specific examples. So I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Damn, this nigga pulled out a chart. Lord have mercy. Shout out to Spicy Parodies. He puts $1.99 on it. He says,
Hold on. Hello? Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!
Spicy Parodies with the $1.99 super trap. He says he's outside with it.
To discuss each and every case you've had. Because looking at your cases, and I've now examined all of the child porn cases you've had as a federal district judge.
God damn. He said he looked at all of them hoes. Woo, he did his motherfucking homework. The fact that The fact that she got nominated after all this is wild.
There is a very consistent pattern. So let's start. And by the way, I'm excluding the cases. So Senator Durbin
and if she's soft on child stuff, then imagine how soft she is on these super gremlins, on Demon Time.
and Senator Coons focused on the Nickerson case, the Fife case, the Nguyen case, and the Hilly case. I'm excluding those because those are not child porn cases. Those are actual sexual assault of a child, which is markedly different. And I will concede when you're dealing with sexual assault, you have been willing to impose stricter penalties. So let's focus on actual child pornography cases. And let's go through each of them, because if it's right that we're cherry picking, then you should be able to explain quite powerfully. Now, your justification is that you're following the statute. And as you know, 18 U.S.C. section 3553 lays out the factors that as a district judge you had to consider in sentencing. And let's start with the Hess case, United States versus Hess. Now, in that case, a man sent 6 pictures of a prepubescent girl that he claimed was his daughter.
God damn, this shit is getting real. This shit is getting real. And Ted Cruz is racist for bringing this up. He's racist for bringing this up in the Communitah's eyes. So she is outwardly and openly protecting these chomos.
6 pictures of a prepubescent girl that he claimed was his daughter.
Damn.
To an undercover law enforcement officer.
This nigga sent a picture of his daughter.
Officers found over 600 images of child pornography.
God.
Including images of sexual acts being performed on prepubescent children.
God damn. Damn.
The defendant pled guilty, and I believe in all of these cases the defendant pled guilty. So there's no question about guilt.
So he admitted to guilt. These niggas need to have a sit down with Umar.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
Came in and pled guilty in your courtroom. The charge carried a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years and a mandatory maximum sentence of 20 years. The sentencing
minimum of 5 years, maximum of 20 years. And what did she do?
Guidelines recommended 151 to 188 months sentence. The government, as part of a plea deal, agreed to argue for 60 months, but didn't agree that that would be the sentence, simply that they would advocate it. And you, in turn, sentenced Hess to 60 months. So
60 months is 5 years. So she gave him the bare minimum sentence.
Under the terms of the statute, why did you choose to sentence Hess to the absolute lowest possible sentence you were allowed to sentence under law?
Thank you, Senator. I have spoken at length throughout this hearing about these cases. I've said what I'm going to say, which is I've taken every case seriously. These are
Do you have anything
very
to say about the
horrible
Hess case? I'm asking you specifically
crimes,
about the Hess
and
case.
I've taken every case seriously.
So you're not going to answer that?
These are very horrible crimes, as was that one. And as a mother, having to look at these pictures, having to follow Congress's directive.
Just listen, she never answers a question directly. Never. Okay? And she has children.
Having to listen to recommendations like the government in that case, which argued for 60 months, I imposed the sentence that I believed was the sentence that was required by law.
So I believe you, and I've read your sentencing hearing in each one of these cases for which we have transcripts, and there's several of which we don't have transcripts. So in each of these cases, you read from the same script. So in each of these cases, you say that The distribution of child pornography is an extremely serious federal crime. And you point out that the crime involves people who are taking pictures and videos of real children while the children are being sexually abused. In Hess, you pointed out that he had hundreds of images of children in sexually compromised position. Some of them engage in sadomasochistic acts. All of this I'm reading from you on the bench. And most importantly, the children in these pictures are not knowing and willing participants in the degrading conduct that was being depicted. They were being forced by someone off screen to commit unspeakable acts of sexual violence for the pleasure of the people filming them and for the gratification of people everywhere. And
wow, and that's crazy. And we're going to we're gonna get a picture of one of her daughters. So let's show that. The girl's 17, guys, so chill out. But this is her daughter. Here's her husband. Here's her daughter. Obviously, cute young girl. If she were to be exploited in this way, I wonder what the ruling would be for that. What would she give the bare minimum sentence? Or would she, violate them? Okay. So, there you have it. That's the daughter. All right. So she got kids and she out here giving bare minimum sentences for chomos.
what concerns me is that many of those people have absolutely no shred of empathy for what that conduct does for the children who were being abused in this way. And you read this script in every one of these cases. So you talk about that these are terrible, terrible crimes. But you also, and in Hess, you said, I have to say that what I found particularly disturbing about your offense was that, quote, you apparently concocted a story about having photographed your own daughter, who you purportedly were willing to take pictures of to trade with other people.
Oh, well, hold on. What? Hold on. Run it back.
Say that what I found are terrible, terrible crimes for what that conduct does for the children who were being abused in this way. And you read this script in every one of these cases. So you talk about that these are terrible, terrible crimes. But you also, and in Hess, you said, I have to say that what I found particularly disturbing about your offense was that, quote, you apparently concocted a story about having photographed your own daughter, who you purportedly were willing to take pictures of to trade with other people. I know from your comments and from those who know you that you are unlikely to ever harm a child, which I find remarkable that you've got a child predator in your court who says, I'm unlikely to harm a child. And you say, well, you told me that, so clearly you're unlikely. But, you say, but in the context of the crime, you represented that you would. That in and of itself is astonishing. So you talk about it as astonishing.
Wow. This is crazy. She really, even in the statement, she's caping for him.
You nonetheless sentenced him to the very lowest possible sentence allowed under law. And what's striking is in these cases, and half of them in 5, you sentenced the defendant to the absolute lowest sentence under law. Let's look at another case. Let's look at United States versus Chazen. Now, Chazen is a particularly nasty case.
Uh-oh.
In Chazen, the defendant was accused, accessed a Dropbox that contained 35 videos and 13 partially downloaded files of prepubescent minor females. And
Whoa, guys, if you got a weak stomach, this shit is getting real. I think we might have to go to Genquavius for a second, guys, to cool off a little bit.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Ketanji Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, VGZM News 17.
Engaging in sexually explicit conduct. At least 3 of the instances of prepubescent female children were engaged in sexual activity with adult men.
Oh, God. So we got Dropbox files of prepubescent young girls, and these dudes is out here doing God knows what. I don't even want to say it to young girls. I'm telling you, they need to speak with Umar.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
The images included the sexual abuse of children, including those as young as toddlers. And several of these cases that you had involved the sexual abuse of toddlers, which is truly horrifying. In this instance, Chazen pleaded guilty. The guidelines recommended a sentence of 78 to 97 months. The prosecution argued that should be what the sentence was. And you sentenced Chazen to just 28 months.
Wow.
Why did you sentence someone who had child pornography of toddlers being sexually abused to 28 months, 64% below what the prosecutors asked for?
Wow. Wow. And judges use their discretion. So she's like, not a big deal. Dropbox files of kitty porn. No biggie.
Thank you, Senator. You've picked out, I don't know, 7, 8 cases. I've sentenced more than 100 people.
But not to child pornography.
And in
These
every
are your child porn cases.
in every case, Senator, I look at the evidence. I look at the recommendations of not just the government, because my duty as a judge is to consider all of the arguments that are made in a case. I look at the evidence. I talk to the defendants about the harms that they have engaged in. Many of these defendants are people who
Okay, Judge, with respect, you're not answering my question. You're right. You talked to them about the harms. Let me read you again from what you said at the bench. You said in this instance with Mr. Chazen, you said among the defendants nationwide who received a below guideline sentence on the basis of a downward variance as opposed to a departure, the average sentences ranged from 84 to 92 months. So that's what you lay out as the average. Our Democratic colleagues say, well, other federal judges sentence below the guidelines. That is true. A number of federal judges do. Our Democratic colleagues have not pointed to a single federal judge in the country who 100% of the time sentences child porn defendants to markedly below what the prosecution has recommended, unless you have a mandatory minimum and no ability to do so.
I mean, it doesn't make sense why she would do that. And she's not going to answer the question. She's just like, no big deal. They picked out every single case that dealt with child abuse. And boom.
In this case, you say comparable defendants are sentenced to 84 to 92 months. Sentencing guidelines by statute require you to have similarly situated defendants sentenced to similar sentences, but you don't sentence Chazen to 84 to 92 months. You sentenced him to 28 months. Why?
Senator, I've said what I'm going to say about these cases. No one case can stand in for a judge's entire record.
Okay, but I'm discussing
And
every one of your cases. So if you're not going to explain it,
Senator, would you please let her respond?
no, not if she's not going to answer my
Well, if
question.
you're just going to give a speech, then you
And
shouldn't engage in questions.
you are not taking my time. If you want to filibuster, you're welcome to do so, but do it
I
on your
would
own
at least
time.
give you an opportunity to speak, and you should give her an opportunity to respond.
If she wants to answer the question, I asked her why
Please
she
allow
sentenced,
her to answer the
I
question.
asked her why she sentenced Chazen to 28 months.
Damn, and she got the white knights on go for her, bruh. That's crazy. So let me look this guy up. The Chazen guy. Maybe we can get a mugshot. Nope, no mugshot. So it doesn't look like we're getting mugshots of these guys. But I was interested to see like who these people were that she was, giving these weak ass sentences to.
Months when comparable defendants, in
So
her
let's hear
own
the
words,
answer.
were sentenced to substantially higher, and she said she's not going to answer. Do you? I would welcome your answer, please.
Senator, I didn't say I'm not going to answer.
Okay, well,
I
then
said
please
my
tell us
answer.
in this case, Chazen, why did you sentence him to just 28 months?
Senator, you're looking at the record. I don't have the record here. What I will say is that in every case, I looked at the recommendations of not only the government, but also the probation office, the defendant, the record, the evidence. I took into account the seriousness of the offense. And
By the way, one of the
ruled.
striking things in Chazen, the prosecutor comes in front of you and says, this is the prosecutor's argument at this point. And the prosecutor says, I understand from my experience before Your Honor's objection, policy objections to the 2G2.2 sentencing guidelines. And he goes on to say, however, in this case in particular, the 4-point specific offense characteristic is justified because it contains sadomasochistic images of infants and toddlers.
Holy shit. Holy shit. So we have some weird things going on here. Ketanji might be a witch, bruh. She might literally be a witch. She might literally be a witch. She might be sitting in a pentagram right now, praying to the ancestors, asking the ancestors to shield her while she capes for these chomos.
The goddamn NBA is a suspect. As soon as I said that, Mama Oya blew my cell phone off the stand.
I'm trying to understand how you see someone that possesses images of infants and toddlers being sexually violated and you sentence them to 64% below what the prosecutor's asking for.
So they got them pictures of vile things going on, some Satanist shit. These motherfuckers is doing all types of weirdo, unspeakable things, spirit cooking and all. Oh, God.
You don't provide a justification other than a generic concern that the guidelines are too high. You don't provide a justification as required by statute. So I'm asking you to take the opportunity to explain to this committee and the American people why in 100% of the cases, you have people with vile crimes, and you have language saying they're vile crimes. But then you sentence them to very, very low sentences. And why do you consistently 100% of the time choose to do that?
Senator, no one case can stand in for a judge's entire sentencing record.
Wow.
I've sentenced more than 100 people. You have 8 or 9 cases in that chart.
Okay, Judge, you said that before. These are the 8 or 9 child porn cases. I will say, to correct the record,
I
I was
just
talking
say
about
to the judge, there's no point in responding. He's going to interrupt.
I don't know, bruh. Dude who's caping for her, he sound like he probably got some shit on his Dropbox.
Thank you.
Look, I appreciate the chairman trying to filibuster, and if you don't like your witnesses' answers, you're welcome to provide your own. She is declining to answer the question, and
They do not want to talk about this. They're uncomfortable. A lot of people feeling like, hey, a hit dog or holler, and it's a lot of folks in these rooms who be playing with kids. Ask Epstein, he know. Well,
Chairman Durbin, if you want to join her on the bench, you can. But Chairman Durbin,
my job is to make
Chairman
sure
Durbin, I'm not
questions are
interrupting
answered.
your questioning.
I'm asking you to give her a chance to answer.
But
You
she's
refuse to do it.
consistently said she's not going to answer. I want to clarify for the record, by the way, the case I was discussing was Cooper and not Chazen. But Chazen is The case that I was reading from your transcript was Cooper, but Chazen, all right, let's get to Chazen. I pulled the wrong tab. Chazen is equally horrifying. And you say in Chazen, this is something Senator Graham asked you. So the guidelines lay out different enhancements. And you say repeatedly, and this is true in all your cases, you say you disagree with the guidelines. You think they're wrong. And the two guidelines you disagree with is one, there's an enhancement for use of a computer, and you say the world has changed, and now all of these are on a computer. And I understand that. I don't agree with you, but I understand that. That is a understandable thing to say. But the second thing you say over and over again is there's an enhancement for the number of images. And you say repeatedly, for example, in Chazen, you say, whatever the state of the law and technology at the time of the guidelines were first adapted, neither the use of the computer nor the number of images are especially aggravating factors today.
Wow. So she could have hit him with enhancements. And a lot of the times when we hear these enhancements, we think of gun violence enhancements for owning a possession of a firearm when you're a convicted felon. Enhancement for possessing the firearm when you're on parole or probation. Enhancement for the extended mag if it's illegal in your state. Enhancement for turning the gun into a rapid fire or machine gun type weapon. Enhancement. So you can get enhancement with these gun crimes. And they violate you. A lot of times they do violate you. Now, most of these super gremlins are not getting violated anymore, but back in the day, you would get violated for these enhancements because it was a new thing. They did it by a point system. Florida still uses the point system, and they'll still violate you in Florida. But, you know, a lot of these niggas deserve to be violated. She could have super violated these chomos, but she decided not to use or equip the enhancements in her sentencing. She felt as if it was a non-factor, not only the amount of pictures and videos that the person had in their possession in their Dropbox file, but also he said the amount, and hold on, I'm drawing a blank, and the fact that they put it on a computer.
Now, I find that bizarre. And you say it in every case. You say the number of images, it's not an aggravating factor, it doesn't matter, and you won't apply the enhancement. Do you really believe that a predator that has hundreds or thousands of images of hundreds or thousands of children being sexually violated?
I ain't gonna lie. Jager 1420 said something. He said something. I ain't gonna read it. I ain't trying to get in trouble legally, but he said something, and who knows?
Has not committed an offense that is more serious than someone that has a single picture of a single child. A single picture of a single child is horrifying, but hundreds of children that have been violated, do you really believe that is not a more serious offense?
Senator, I did not have any cases involving hundreds of thousands of pictures.
No, I said hundreds or thousands. You had cases involving hundreds and you had cases involving thousands. You're right, you didn't have hundreds of thousands.
And I also applied an enhancement, just not to the degree of the guidelines.
You're right. It's a 5-point enhancement under the guidelines. You provide 2.
Yes, so not 0,
Okay,
not,
you're right,
not the suggestion that I did.
Are you suggesting the number of images doesn't matter? Because you say it in court over and over again that the number of images doesn't reflect that it's a more serious crime. Do you really believe that?
Senator, as I said to Senator Graham, the court is taking into account a number of circumstances. The commission has done a report about the operation of the guidelines, which enhancements actually reflect different levels of culpability with respect
So let me ask you this, Judge. You've said the purpose of sentencing is to distinguish between crimes that are not serious from truly egregious crimes. Is that right?
No, Senator.
So what is the purpose of sentencing if it's not to distinguish from less serious crimes from truly egregious crimes?
It is to assign proportional punishment. It is to do justice in cases where you have defendants who are convicted of the same conduct, but have differing levels of culpability.
Well, I will point out that you have a pattern. It doesn't matter how egregious the case is. Senator Hawley talked about the Hawkins case where you had an 18-year-old with pictures of boys as young as 8 being sexually assaulted and raped, and you sentenced him to just 3 months in jail.
Shit.
And I will point out the Stewart case, the last one on this list, because we're running out of time. The Stewart case, you describe that he had over 6,700 images and videos.
Woo!
So that's a lot, 6,700. That's a lot of kids being sexually assaulted. You have taken over a minute of my time, Mr. Chairman. So
the chomos are trying to get him off the mic. They're like, all right, you done talked about this shit enough. I'm trying to go home and, fucking 8-year-old.
Been given extra time. You usually ask for it. You're given it.
Okay. I know you want to interrupt. I know you don't like this line of
I just want you to play by the rules.
I know you like to interrupt, but
like
you've consumed a substantial question of my time of my questioning, and I'm going to ask my questions, and you can, if you want to testify, you're welcome to.
Senator,
Judge,
you play by the same rules as every other senator.
In the Stewart case, you said from the bench, thus, although this is not necessarily an atypical case, your child pornography possession crime was egregious in the court's view. Okay, so this is a bad one. If you're actually sentencing defendants, you said this was egregious. What did you sentence Stewart for? The guidelines said 97, 121 months.
Woo!
The prosecutor said 97 months. You said it's egregious. 6,700 images. You come in with 57 months.
Wow. They trying to get him off the mic too. They rushing him off the mic. This is crazy.
Why did you sentence him to just 57 months in the Stewart case? Do you want to address that? Because you're claiming it's cherry picking. In fact, you're welcome
She finna give the same exact answer.
Explain any of these cases, but let's take the Stewart case.
Senator
Why
Coons,
did you sentence him for half the amount?
you're not recognized, Senator Coons.
You don't want her to answer that question?
You wouldn't allow her any.
Mr. Chairman, she may answer the question. I've asked her why she sentenced Stewart.
You've gone over the time, Senator, by 2 minutes.
Why because you've interrupted me for 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman. Will you allow her to answer the question, or do you not want the American people to hear why, with someone she described?
Look, he scoffed at him. This is black girl magic.
As an egregious.
There comes a point, Senator, where you get a little bit.
Chairman Durbin, will you allow her to answer the question?
You won't allow her to answer.
I will happily allow her to. The question is
Senator
why
Thank
you sentenced Stewart, an egregious child pornography possessor, to half of the amount requested by the prosecutor.
Please, Senator.
Will you allow her to answer the question, Chairman Durbin?
Senator Coons.
Why are you not allowing her to answer the question? There's not another senator here that you've not allowed her to answer the question. I'm not asking another question, but allow her to answer the question, Chairman Durbin.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin.
Why do you not want the American people to know what happened in the Stewart case or any of these cases? Chairman Durbin, I've never seen the chairman refuse to allow a witness to answer a question. You can bang it as loud as you want.
Well, I can just tell you.
Woo! He's going at it, but Ketanji is obviously a plant. She is a token piece to protect all of the diddlers in the elite class in Washington.
At some point, you have to follow the rules.
Okay, will you let her answer the question? You've been interrupting, and by the way, with Senator Graham, it went 10 minutes over. You've taken a big chunk of the time. Will you allow her to answer the question?
You've given her.
Why are you afraid of her? She's welcome to answer it right now. Will you let her?
Senator Coons.
Will you let? So no, you don't want her to answer the question?
Senator Coons.
Will you let her answer the question?
Chairman Durbin.
Apparently, you were very afraid of the American people hearing the answer to that question.
We here in the Senate.
And it sounds like, I don't know, man. It might be some backdoor deals going on, but we know exactly where to send Ketanji Brown Jackson.
She belongs to the street. Percocet, Miley Percocet, Percocet, Miley Percocet, represent, gotta represent. Chase a chick, never chase a bitch. Chase no bitch, mask on, fuck it, mask on, mask.
Had to send that man to the streets. Send it to the streets.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, I have enjoyed listening to you today. I find you to be very intelligent and very articulate. I'm still a little uncertain about how you think, how you approach cases.
And listen to how he said articulate. You're very articulate. Okay. Black people take offense to white people saying that they're articulate, okay? Because there's an implied gesture that black people aren't articulate. And if you want me to keep it a buck, you know, there's a reason why white people point this out. This is a big gripe in the Communitah where they say, oh, well, white people always say, oh, if you talk proper, then, oh, you're so articulate. I mean, you get that same thing in a Communitah. If you talk proper in the Communitah, you talk white. If white people, you know, hear that you talk proper, then they say, hey, you're articulate. So you're going to get remarks on each side. Which one would you rather have? Somebody calling you articulate or somebody saying that you talk white?
Deciding cases, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm not going to ask you, nor should I, how would you would decide a case. And I'm not going to ask you, nor should I, to tell me whether you think a particular precedent is a good precedent or not. So, but I am going to talk to you about the law.
Uh-oh.
But first, you don't support efforts to delegitimize the United States Supreme Court, do you?
Senator, I have nothing but esteem for the United States Supreme Court, for my hopefully future colleagues on the court, and the work that the court does.
Can we agree that the calls to pack the court delegitimize the court?
Senator, it would not be appropriate for me, in my view, to comment on calls to pack the court, as you say.
So the calls to pack the court just implies that the Democrats are pushing to pack the Supreme Court with more liberal judges in order to push their agendas through. So that is what that pack the court phrase means. And yes, there is definitely an agenda on both sides to pack the court with whoever they feel fit. This one is just a little bit more egregious because Biden specifically said that he is going to appoint a black Supreme Court nominee, a black female Supreme Court nominee, and he did it. It's almost like a slap in the face, like I'm only looking at a black woman for this job instead of the best candidate.
To increase the number, to do any structural changes. Those are policy determinations for Congress. What the consequences of those are policy considerations for Congress. I'm just looking forward to working with the brilliant people who are there at whatever size Congress decides if I'm confirmed.
Well, the calls to pack the court don't legitimize the court, do they?
Well, Senator, I think that would be for you to decide.
I'm asking your opinion.
Respectfully, Senator, I'm not in a position to give my opinion on issues that are policy issues concerning the court, and not something that a judge would have to consider or should consider in my view.
Yeah, but you're a citizen.
Oh, I am.
And as best I can tell, very good one. I don't understand why you won't weigh in on this issue. Tell me why you won't weigh in on this issue.
Because she's part of the effort to pack the court. That's why she won't weigh in.
Senator, I feel so strongly about ensuring that judges remain out of political debates. And this is something that is being debated. It is something that nominees, Justice Barrett was asked about the same sort of thing and also declined to give her opinion. And I think that was the right way to handle this particular issue.
So you think Judge Barrett was right to dodge the question?
I think that each judge has to make a determination when asked about whether they would like to speak to issues. And I know that I'm not comfortable, in part because I'm so committed to making sure that there's.
She does a lot of this dancing. We're gonna get into another another interview where she was getting grilled. All right, so let's get into it.
Chairman, Judge, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Senator.
Don't have a lot of time, so let me just get straight into it. Senator Cruz was asking you at the end of his time and questionings about United States versus Stewart. This is the case where Neil Stewart tried to cross state lines to rape another person's 9-year-old daughter. He had.
God damn. And then, so he's talking about the Stewart case.
6,700 images and videos of egregious and brutal child pornography. The government recommended 97 months. The guidelines said 97 to 121 months. You came in at 57 months. Senator Cruz asked you why. The chairman wouldn't let you answer. I thought maybe you'd like to answer now.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Senator. No one case can stand in for a judge's entire record.
She keeps saying the same thing. But your actions speak louder than your words, Ketanji.
Have sentenced more than 100 people in a variety of egregious circumstances. In every case, and especially cases that involve the kinds of acts that you're talking about, the kinds of evidence that I had to deal with as a judge, in every case, I am balancing the factors that Congress has determined are appropriate and required for a judge to make a determination. The data points that Senator Cruz pointed to that you may have in front of you don't account for all of the information that was before me as a judge and the authority that you all, Congress, and your prior confirmation when I was a district judge provided for me to exercise my judgment. And I treated those cases and every case very seriously and imposed a sentence that was sufficient but not greater than necessary to promote the purposes of punishment.
Would it surprise you to learn that Mr. Stewart's a recidivist? He was warrants issued again for his arrest.
Wow, so he reoffended. Shocking.
3 years after you sentenced him.
Would it surprise me?
Yeah, would it surprise you?
You know, Senator, there is data in the Sentencing Commission and elsewhere that indicates that there are recidivism, serious recidivism issues.
85% of the people who go to prison recidivate, meaning they reoffend. 85%.
And so
so by her giving them a short sentence, she's giving them more time to reoffend because she's allowing them to get out early and get back to what they were doing.
Among the various people that I've sentenced, I'm not surprised that there are people who reoffend, and it is a terrible thing that happens in our system.
Yeah, indeed it is. Let me ask you about the Hawkins case. You and I talked about this yesterday. You've been able to think about it overnight. This is a case where you had an 18-year-old who possessed and distributed hundreds of images of 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and you gave him, frankly, a slap on the wrist sentence of 3 months.
Senator,
Do you regret it?
I don't remember whether it was distribution or possession. In
It
the
was
law,
both. Do you regret it?
in the law, there are different crimes that people commit.
Judge, you
in
gave
this
him
area.
3 months. My question is, do you regret it or not?
Senator, what I regret is that in a hearing about my qualifications to be a justice on the Supreme Court, we've spent a lot of time focusing on this small subset.
I'll take that as a no. She doesn't regret it.
Of my sentences, and I've tried to explain.
You regret that
many
we're focusing on your
times-
cases? I don't understand.
No. I'm talking about the fact that you're talking about
Child pornography
7
cases?
very serious cases.
I'm glad we agree on that. Don't you think we should be focusing on
Some of which involve conduct that I sentence people to 25, 30 years.
3 months
for-
in this case, Judge? Do you regret it? You haven't answered my question yet. Do you
Senator-
regret this sentence?
Senator, I would have to look at the circumstances. What I'm telling you.
You know the circumstances. We discussed it.
And this is what a lot of not just sisters, but women do in arguments. They never answer the question directly. He asked her if she regrets sentencing, and she refuses to answer this question. And Black women are on Instagram. Black women are on Twitter talking about some Black girl magic. This is not magic. This is witchcraft, honey.
For half an hour yesterday, there's a 55-page transcript, which I'm sure you've read. You
I
lived
did
it.
not- I
As
did
you've
not-
emphasized to this committee over and over, you've lived it, right? You said that you've been through all of this. You've looked at all of the images. You're the one who's had to endure all of it. You gave him a 3-month sentence. I just wonder if you regret it or if you stand by it. I mean, do you stand by that sentence?
Senator, in every case, I followed what Congress authorized me to do in looking to the best of my ability at all of the various factors that apply, that constrain judges, that give us discretion, but also tell us how to sentence. And I ruled in every case based on all of the relevant factors.
So you don't regret it?
No one case, Senator, can stand.
Damn, she going back to the no one case can stand alone for a lifetime of cases that I've judged over.
In for
I'm not asking you that.
higher
I'm asking
record.
if you regret this sentence in this case. And it sounds like the answer is no. But I want to tell you, I regret it. I regret that you gave him only 3 months. Let me read to you what you said about these kinds of cases. And in fact, to this defendant,
I want to see how he recidivated, what new charges they brought up on him.
you said, make no mistake, Mr. Hawkins, the children you saw in those pictures were not willing participants in the conduct that you witnessed. They were being forced to commit unspeakable acts of sexual violence for the pleasure of the person who was filming and for the gratification of sick people everywhere, people who apparently have no shred of empathy for what this must be doing to the children who are being abused in this way. You go on. Some of the children you saw in those pictures will never have a normal adult relationship. Some of them will turn to drugs and prostitution and other vices to try to deal emotionally with the pain that results from the torture that they have experienced. And even those who manage to lead a somewhat normal adult life say they live in constant fear of being recognized. Some people are even unable to leave their houses because once those pictures are on the internet, they are there forever. And the victims can't do anything without worrying that every person that they meet has seen them in their most vulnerable state at the most horrible time in their lives. That's your words, pages 34 and 35 of the transcript. Powerful words, Judge. I just don't understand why after saying this and believing this, you could give this guy 3 months in prison when the probation office that we've heard so much about recommended 18 months. Even the probation office recommended 18 months. Do you have anything to add?
No, Senator.
Uh-oh, she went quiet. She went silent when White Zaddy put that pressure on her.
Let me ask you about your policy of not giving enhancements when there are prepubescent children, like there were in the Hawkins case, who are 8, 9, 10 years old, when there are prepubescent children involved. I'm just struggling to understand this. You said it in Hawkins. You said that you weren't going to give him an enhancement. You weren't going to make his sentence any tougher, despite the fact that we had all of these terrible videos that you and I talked about at length yesterday. This is page 38 of the transcript, just so that we're all following along. You said, in your case, I don't feel that it is appropriate necessarily to increase the penalty on the basis of your use of a computer, and we've talked about that, or the number of images or prepubescent victims as the guidelines require, because these circumstances exist in many cases, if not most, and they
She writing his name down on her hit list. She's like, I can't stand for this.
don't signal an especially heinous or egregious child pornography offense. You said the same thing in the Cooper case just last year. This was an individual, Cooper, who was 30 years old at the time of his sentencing. He pleaded guilty to distributing child pornography. He posted between 3 and 4 dozen images of child exploitation to Tumblr, where it could be accessed publicly. The government said, and I'll quote from the transcript in that case, page 37, when his devices were found, including the computer, within the computer and on an untitled folder were many, many, many videos. The nature of these videos went well beyond mere child pornography. The government says, I don't mean to make light of the content of any child pornography, but rather to say that the content of those videos is on the more egregious or extreme spectrum of the child pornography videos that are encountered in these.
Look at her face. She like, I don't give a fuck.
Cases. And yet when you sentenced him, you said, I'm quoting now from the transcript in Cooper, I'm really reluctant to get into the nature of the porn. And then later, it's very difficult to assess how different Mr. Cooper's images are than those of other similarly situated child pornography defendants, such that I, without going into looking at them, and I'm not an expert, you say. So you say, while I understand the government's arguments, Mr. Miranda, the government's arguments in that regard, I don't find them persuasive from the standpoint of characterizing this as an especially egregious child pornography offense.
So after all that, she detailed how crazy the imagery was, and she said even though the government categorized it as egregious, she doesn't think it's as bad as it's been purported.
Arguments, Mr. Miranda, the government's arguments in that regard, I don't find them persuasive from the standpoint of characterizing this as an especially egregious child pornography offense. Help me understand this, Judge. Why is it that what's your policy disagreement with the guidelines treating images, videos, pornographic images that have small children, infants, 7, 8, 9-year-olds? Why won't you give an enhancement for those? Help me understand that.
Thank you, Senator. I'll make 2 responses. First,
for one, I just got to point this out. Thank you, Senator. Like, she acting super nice for the white dude. I'm telling you, bruh, she wouldn't. If this was a brother, she would not be answering in the same. I'm telling you right now. I mean, a brother would have never grilled her like this. Never grilled her like this if he was a senator and it was a brother in power. But, yo, thank you, Senator. Like, come on, bro. We know that ain't you.
Thank you, Senator. I'll make 2 responses. First, that's not my policy disagreement. I don't know why you've characterized that in that way.
Well, wait a minute. You say right here in the cases. I mean, this is what I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing here. This in the Hawkins case, I don't feel that it's appropriate necessarily.
Here the white knights, they saying he won't let her answer, and I'll give him that. You gotta let her answer, but she's gonna say the same fucking answer.
To increase the penalty on the basis of your use of a computer or the number of images or prepubescent victims. And you say the same thing in Cooper.
Senator, 2 observations. 1, I am sentencing in every case. I have policy disagreements with certain aspects of the operation of the guidelines that I lay out in every case as Congress has required and as the Supreme Court permits in light of my experience, not only as a district judge, but also on the Sentencing Commission, which did a report about the operation of the guidelines. Second, you've read extensively from the government's argument in this case. You've not provided information from the probation office or the defense. And when
I don't have the probation office report.
No, excuse me, Senator. The probation office provides a recommendation. There has been information gathered about what a recommendation was given in each one of these cases. I don't have that information here, but what I'm saying is that in every case, the judge is not just hearing from the government. The judge is not just evaluating what the government says in these cases. In every criminal case, a judge has to take into account all sorts of factors, including arguments being made by the defendant, by the government, by the probation office. So I understand that in certain cases, the government may have made an argument, but there are other people in our criminal justice system who make arguments, and the court evaluates everything as Congress has directed.
Did she answer the damn question? I'm trying to figure out where is the answer for the question, bruh. Oh, man. It seems like she is just deflecting.
I don't give a fuck about the line. We lost.
And no one case can stand in for my entire record of how I deal with criminal cases, or did when I was a district judge.
Same conclusion. No one case. No one case. Lord have mercy. Anyways, we have product of Cook County, 7963. He say, yo, Gen Z, much love from Southwest Chicago area. Happy to see there's people thinking like I am, and I'm not alone. Are you participating in Ramadan? I'm not participating in Ramadan, my brother, but I do support my brothers who are participating in Ramadan. So, product of Cook County, put $4.99 on it. You already know.
Hold on. Hello? Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!
He from the Chicago area. He's definitely outside.
I have law enforcement in my family. I am a mother who has daughters who took these cases home with me at night because they are so graphic.
Hold on. She took the pictures home. Did she give them to her husband? Did she give them to... Hey, did she give or show those pics to her hubby Pooh?
In terms of the kinds of images that you are describing, they give you not only the actual videos, which you can ask to see, but they describe in the briefs in detail what these videos show.
Hit one if hubby Pooh got a peek at some of these egregious cases. Hit one if hubby Pooh went as far as to download it on a ghost hard drive.
So I am fully aware of the seriousness of this offense and also my obligation to take into account all of the various aspects of the crime as Congress has required me to do, and I made a determination seriously in each case.
What I'm trying to understand is, why is it that you say multiple times that just because there are prepubescent victims in Cooper, in Hawkins, that does not signal that this is a heinous or egregious child pornography offense, and you're not going to apply any sentencing enhancements that the government's asking you for? The sentence gets to be less because you say, I'm not going to apply. The government asked for enhancements related to prepubescent children, related to the nature of these images. You say, I'm not going to apply it. But I get what you're telling me is, I guess, that you don't have a policy objection. I mean, why didn't you apply the enhancements as they were asked for?
Senator, I've answered this question many times from many senators who've asked me, so I'll stand on what I've already said.
Uh-oh.
So you have nothing to add about...
She said, bitch, I stand on it.
Why these crimes, why these images, in your view, do not signal an especially heinous or egregious child pornography offense. That's Hawkins. You say in Cooper.
Bro, how is this going to age in history? How is it we're going to be looking, because, you know, she's in there for life now. So I'm going to be alive at the end of her career. How, you know, God willing, bro, how are we going to look back at these hearings? How many cases is she going to preside over where she is going to advocate for people who violate children. Okay.
I understand the government's argument, but I don't find them persuasive. The fact that there were prepubescent children from the standpoint of characterizing this as an especially egregious child pornography offense. That's page 58. Let me ask you this. You said to Senator Graham earlier today that you were trying to do what's rational, and you didn't in sentencing in these cases, and you didn't think it was rational to sentence people who had thousands of images by using a computer to the sentencing guidelines, to the mandatory range. I'm sorry, it's not mandatory, to the no longer mandatory range, the discretionary range.
No, Senator, I said the guidelines system is designed to be rational.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Why isn't it rational to sentence people who have thousands of images on a computer to more time as opposed to somebody who has one or two pictures in the mail? In other words, the more images there are, why wouldn't you want to sentence that person to more time rather than less? Why isn't that rational?
Senator, I've answered.
I wonder if she knows the difference between a prepubescent boy and a prepubescent female.
This question, and I'll stand on what I already answered.
So
she said, bitch, I stand on what the fuck I said. I stand on what I said.
But your answer is what? I mean, refresh my memory.
Senator, I've answered this question. I've explained how the guidelines work, and I'll stand on my answer.
But
this how she want him to respond.
Oh, say less.
Guidelines are not mandatory. I wish they were, but they're not. The Supreme Court made that determination. I'm trying to understand why you think it's rational not to sentence criminals based on the number of images they have. You say that this is a policy disagreement that you have with the guidelines. This gets to the core of your judicial philosophy. You served on the Sentencing Commission where you recommended changes to the guidelines based in part on this policy disagreement. So I think it's relevant and indeed vital we understand what the policy disagreement is. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Senator, I previously explained what the policy disagreement is, and I will stand on my answer.
So you're not going to answer my question?
No, I've answered your question in my answer.
You
is
haven't
I've
answered my question. I'm
explained-
sitting here asking you and you're declining to answer.
I've explained how the guidelines work. I've explained that the guidelines were developed at a time in which the commission of this crime was different than it is today. I've explained that Congress has not intervened to revise or direct the commission around how to deal with the changes in the commission of this crime. And so judges all over the country are grappling with how to apply this guideline under these circumstances. And there's an extreme amount of disparity. And in each case, a judge has to look at all of the factors, not just the guidelines, not just what the government asks for, but the recommendations of the probation office, the arguments of the government and the defense, the nature and circumstances of the offense, the history and characteristics of the defendant, the need for the sentence imposed to promote the purposes of punishment, which include things like rehabilitation. Also, in every case, Congress has authorized judges to impose not only terms of imprisonment, which are a very important part of the consequences for these crimes, but a range of other preventative kinds of measures which courts impose in cases to prevent these defendants from repeating these egregious, this type of egregious conduct.
But she understands and knows that 85% of these criminals recidivate, and she still gives them these slaps on the wrist sentences.
And I talked to each defendant, as you have quoted, explaining to them the harms that their crimes caused. And I imposed not only a term of imprisonment, but also all of the other consequences of the offense, to include decades of supervision, restrictions on use of a computer, and the like. That's my answer. I've answered it many times. Do you have other questions for me?
Yeah, I do.
to answer?
I do, because I want to try to understand when you talk about the guidelines being outdated and outmoded. I understand that they were written, the initial guidelines were written at a time when computers were not common. Everybody didn't have one. Certainly didn't have phones in every pocket like we do now, smartphones. So I understand that. I also understand that the number of images, sexually exploitative images of children on these devices has exploded. And so I'm trying to get at what Senator Coons earlier characterized as a pretty fundamental policy question, which I think is the correct characterization here. I'm trying to understand your view on why it is that while the number of images available on these things has exploded, that sentencing shouldn't track that. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you've made the argument, if I understand you right, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, you've made the argument that, well, look, the guidelines were written at a time when this stuff was like, it was an individual picture, it was, magazines, whatever. Now, almost every offender, I think this is the argument, so you correct me, almost every offender, because of the nature of this, they've got tens, hundreds, sometimes thousands. I mean, partly because of the nature of this. My question to you is, wouldn't we want to deter that? Isn't that a reason to impose tougher sentences? I mean,
Senator,
go ahead.
The Congress has every ability to do that. What's happening now is that you have a guideline that has gradations in it for the number of images that ends up being, when you look at the scale, something like the difference of 10 years. I don't know exactly what it is, but each 2-level enhancement is like several years. And the gradations are like 0 to, and again, I don't have it in front of me, but it's like 0 to 50 pictures, 50 to 100 pictures, 100 to 150 pictures, set up at a time in which the mail was the primary mode of possession and distribution. And so if somebody had 50 pictures.
Hold on, did she just say mail? Did she just define what a mail was? Did she just misgender a chomo?
Pictures, 50 to 100 pictures, 100 to 150 pictures, set up at a time in which the mail was the primary mode of.
Oh, okay, she said mail. I thought she was talking about the gender. I was finna say, what? All right, she's talking about the Postal Service, guys.
Possession and distribution. And so if somebody had 50 pictures, they, according to Congress and the commission at the time, deserved an extra 10 years in prison. Now, with that scale, everybody's at the top immediately, just because of the nature of the internet. So you're not differentiating using that scale anymore.
And look, I get where she's coming from. The internet has, in a sense, has given people of all types more access to whatever they're interested in. And if it just so happens that they are interested in something so egregious, they're going to have a higher volume of it because the internet is so abundant that you can just send these images in so many different ways. So I get where she's coming from. It still doesn't give the excuse of why she is choosing to sentence people the bare minimum and beneath the bare minimum.
Given the way this crime is committed. And so judges are having to decide, how are we going to deal with the penalties and do our jobs to impose sentences that are sufficient but not greater than necessary under these circumstances.
Yep. Thank you, Judge. I'll just say in closing that I appreciate that answer, and I understand that as a policy matter. I just think we disagree. I think that the more images are there, the more punishment there should be, and I want to see this deterred. And I just think we've pretty fundamentally disagreed. I've enjoyed our exchanges. Thank you for your candor, and I appreciate it. I just disagree with you on the law. Thank you, Mr.
All right, man. We gotta send Ketanji straight back.
She belongs to the street. Percocet, Miley Percocet, Percocet, Miley Percocet, represent, gotta represent. Chase a chick, never chase a bitch. Chase no bitch. Mask on, fuck it, mask on, mask.
We had to send her back to the streets. But anyways, we have one more exchange with Senator Lindsey Graham where he grilled her on the same subject matter. And then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here after this one.
If you believe, as I do, the computer has created a bigger demand, there are more photos out there because of the internet, more websites exposing this garbage. Would you want to deter people from going down that road?
Senator, this crime is among the most difficult.
No, answer my question. Would you want to deter people from going down the road of using the computer that allows these people to have access to millions of photos because of the technology? I want those people deterred. So if you're listening to my voice today and you're on a computer looking at child pornography and you get caught, I hope your sentence is enhanced, because the computer and the internet is feeding the beast here.
So this is Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, I believe. And he ain't playing no games, okay? He an old Southern guy, and he's not finna pitter-patter or bullshit with Miss Ketanji, okay? He don't play that games, especially with a female, a female super gremlin on Demon Time.
That all these images out there are going to be more over time because people use computers. Now, didn't you also say that the number of images should not be considered as a sentence enhancement?
Senator, with respect to the computer, one of the most effective deterrents is one that I imposed in every case and that judges across the country impose in every case, which is substantial supervision. Any of these
wait a minute, Judge. You think it is a bigger deterrent to take somebody who's on a computer looking at sexual images of children in the most disgusting way is to supervise their computer habits versus putting them in jail?
No, Senator, I didn't say versus.
That's exactly what you said. I think the best way to deter people from getting on a computer and viewing thousands and hundreds and over time, maybe millions, the population as a whole, of children being exploited and abused every time somebody clicks on is to put their ass in jail, not supervise their computer usage.
Senator, I wasn't talking about versus.
You just said you thought it was a deterrent to supervise them. I don't think it's a deterrent. I think the deterrent is putting them in jail.
Senator,
the sentencing have a deterrent component.
Senator, would you let her respond?
Yes. The sentencing have a deterrent component.
Yes, Senator, deterrence is one of the purposes of punishment, and Congress has directed courts to consider various means of achieving deterrence. One of them, as you said, is incarceration. Another, as I tried to mention, was substantial periods of supervision once the person.
So if I could may ask you, in your view, it's more of a deterrent to have somebody substantially supervised in terms of their computer use who's looking at child pornography than it is to put them in jail?
Senator, I'm not saying it's more or
That's
less.
exactly what you're saying.
What I'd like to point out is that if we're going to, let me say it this way. Congress has authorized courts to use a number of different means to achieve the purposes of punishment.
And one of them is an enhanced punishment by using a computer.
The enhancement with respect to using a computer relates to the penalty in terms of incarceration.
And you would choose not to apply that in these cases. You've said that. I'll read you the quote, but you've decided not to apply the use of a computer as an enhancement. You've also said you're not going to hold the number of images that the person has looked at as a sentencing enhancement factor. Is that true?
No, Senator, it's not the number of images that the person has looked at because we don't have that information.
Well,
it is the number of images that they've either received or distributed that are.
We don't know if they looked at them, but you're not going to hold it against them that they received 10,000 images versus 100.
That's not what I've said, Senator.
Well, here's what you said. I've decided to apply my general policy disagreement with respect to those enhancements. At least that is the computers and the number of images. Folks, what she is saying, the reason she's always below the recommendation, I think, is because she doesn't use the enhancements available to her. She takes them off the table. And I think that's a big mistake, Judge.
Okay. So you heard what he said. She doesn't like using the enhancements. I just want to give you guys some perspective because I think we have some confusion in the chat. Okay. So we are going to go to an age of consent map. We are going to check out an age of consent map. Okay. And this is coming from the Barnett, Howard, and Williams law firm. Okay, so boom, let us get into it. We have an age of consent map. So it looks like most of the US, the age of consent is 16 with, I believe, parental, I think it's like parental approval or something. So the age of consent in many states in the United States is 16. Alaska, Hawaii, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. We got it right here. So let's see. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, California's 18. I wish you could like sort it in chronological order by the age of consent. But here's the age of consent map, just in case you guys are a little confused and you're traveling across the United States and you want to be moving correctly. All right. So that's that. So there shouldn't be any confusion about the age of consent. Now let us get back to Ketanji them. All right.
Oh, say less.
I think that every federal judge out there should make it harder for somebody to go on a computer and view this filth. That if you use that venue, which is the venue of choice for all these child pornography cases, that you use it against them. I think the more you download, like drugs, the more you have, the more you should go to jail. You've made a conscious decision to disregard those two enhancement sentencing factors, and I think that is a wrong way to go in terms of deterrent. To me, putting somebody in jail for using a computer is more of a deterrent than supervising their activity of watching the computer. That's just a difference that we have.
I'm going to give the witness an opportunity to respond to you, Senator.
Finally.
At
Why?
the time that the guidelines were created for child pornography, this crime was primarily being committed by people who were literally mailing 1, 2, 5, 10, 100 photos at a time.
How's it being committed now?
Would she please
Go
let
ahead.
her complete her answer?
Go ahead.
As a result, the commission determined in the guidelines that it was a substantial aggravating factor if the facts of the case demonstrated that someone had been distributing hundreds of images, because what that meant was over this long, maybe it was a long period of time, they had collected one photo at a time, they had amassed it, they had potentially mailed one at a time, and that showed really aggravated, terrible conduct. I'm not saying as a baseline it's not terrible, it's all terrible. But what we're doing is we're differentiating among defendants. So in a world in which the mail is used for the purpose of distribution, it really matters whether the person has distributed 1 or 5 or 1,000. And so the guideline says, you know what? We are going to treat a person who's distributed 1,000 a lot worse, because that shows that this person is really engaged in this really horrible behavior. In comes the internet.
This is the most energy that I've seen her have. And because this This argument right here disarms. This is what they're going to use. This is what the left is going to use to disarm any type of criticism with Ketanji. Well, her sentencing guidelines were based on the fact that the internet has changed the game of chomo. So the internet has advanced the volume of the amount of illegal images that they have in their possession.
On the internet, with one click, you can receive, you can distribute tens of thousands. You can be doing this for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden, you are looking at 30, 40, 50 years in prison.
Good.
Cut.
Good.
I understand.
Absolutely
Senator, but what
good. I
we're
hope you
trying
are.
To do
Good.
Allow her to finish, please.
I hope you go to jail for 50 years if you're on the internet trolling for images of children in sexual exploitation. So you don't think that's a bad thing? I think that's a horrible
That's not
thing.
what the witness said, and she should be allowed to answer this question once and for all. Senator.
Senator, all I'm trying to explain is that our sentencing system, the system that Congress has created, the system that the Sentencing Commission is the steward of, is a rational one. It's a system that is designed to help judges do justice in these terrible circumstances by.
So she is, because we know the law is based off of precedent, and the way that judges come to a conclusion is based off of legal precedent in prior cases. She is basically saying that going on in the future, any child, kitty, I don't want to say the word, but any type of diddler image, okay, she is going to basically look at the sentencing guidelines and then judge it based off of what she believes is a fair sentencing for the times, okay? So she's basically saying the Constitution was written by dinosaurs. We need to update the Constitution and all these legal amendments and whatnot to be update. And, what she's saying technically is not wrong. Obviously, certain things have to adjust. But I'm also not against the fact that if the sentencing guideline says if somebody has 100 images, they're going to get this certain amount of time. I'm not against them getting that type of time, okay? Especially if they're on here distributing and going back and forth. Like, we supposed to be catching these people and making sure they cannot harm anybody. Instead, she's like, well, let's lower the sentencing guideline and the sentencing precedent, because now any judge in the future can say, oh, well, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she ruled in this way on this case, so we're going to rule in a similar fashion based off of the precedent that she has established, okay? And now she's a Supreme Court justice, so that don't sit right with me.
By eliminating unwarranted disparities, by ensuring that the most serious defendants get the longest periods of time. And when modes of commission of the crime change, such that in 2 seconds, someone can receive or distribute thousands of images, that's no longer and this is what the commission found in their studies, an indicator of a person who, relative to other people, has committed this crime in a more aggravated way.
Well,
and so what we're trying to do is be rational in our dealing with some of the most horrible kinds of behavior. This is what our justice system is about. It's about judges making determinations in meting out penalties to people who have done terrible things.
It is not rational to take the venue of choice of child pornographers, the computer that have 85 million images on it, and not consider that feeding the beast. We're trying to get people to stop this crap. So when you troll on the internet and you pull down thousands of images of children from the internet, I want you to stop that I want people to go to jail who do that because you're feeding the beast. We have a bill here, the Earn It Act, that would allow the victims who are on the internet over and over again to sue the media companies that provide these images. We have a fundamental differences of how you deter crime. I think the best way you deter crime when it comes to child pornography is you lower the bloom on anybody who goes on the internet and pulls out these images for their pleasure.
Senator, every person in all of these charts and documents, I sent to jail because I know how serious this crime is. Every person, I discussed the harm of these terrible, terrible images to the victims who are portrayed in them. I talked about what this crime does to the children who are being abused in these photos, and on the other side of their terms of imprisonment, I ensured that they were facing lengthy periods of supervision and restrictions on their computer use so they could not do this sort of thing again. That's what Congress
How are you going to restrict somebody's computer use?
has required of judges, and that's what I did in every case.
You always were under the recommendation of the prosecutor, many times the parole people. And to be honest with you, Judge, a 32-year-old man who sent an image of his own 10-year-old daughter, you substantially reduced the not only the guidelines, but the recommendation. And all I can say is that your view of how to deter child pornography is not my view. I think you're doing it wrong, and every judge who does what you're doing is making it easier for the children to be exploited. If you're on a computer right now looking at a kid in a sexually compromising situation and you get caught, I hope nobody gives you a break because you used the computer.
And that was real. He made a great point right there. I know you guys don't like Lindsey Graham. He's a rhino and whatnot, but that was a good point.
Conduct that's been described as reprehensible, and I think everyone in this room agrees. And the fact of the matter is that I'm co-sponsor.
Not everyone.
Of your bill, the Earn It Act, and I believe that we should be doing our job here. But part of our job, we have failed in responding to the changing circumstances that face this crime. What has it been, 15 or 16 years? She is currently not an outlier in sentencing. 70% of the federal judges face the same dilemma and wonder why Congress has failed to act and when it will act.
This is our fault.
Partially it is, Senator. To be honest with you, it is. We have to upgrade these guidelines and decide whether we're going to stick with the Supreme Court decision that they're not mandatory.
Woo! So you hear what they're saying. They're saying the sentencing guidelines for chomos may not be mandatory if they don't update. Well, they already ruled that they're not mandatory, but if they don't update the what's on the books for modern times with the internet and the advent of the internet, and increase the threshold or decrease, which they probably won't decrease it, but increase the threshold of how many images you have in your possession per how many years you're going to be sentenced, then the sentencing guidelines are purely discretionary. So Ketanji Brown Jackson is definitely going to continue, or she would continue if she presided over these types of cases, to give discretionarily lighter sentences. Why? Because
she belongs to the street. Percocet, Miley Percocet, Percocet, Miley Percocet, represent, gotta represent. Chase a chick, never chase a bitch. Chase no bitch, mask on, fuck it, mask on, mask.
So, guys, that was an extremely heavy topic, and I hope that there was, enough comedic relief in order for us to get through and stomach this discussion. Very important discussion. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Are you for Ketanji? Are you against it? Do you think she was a token hire? Do you think that black people should be for her? Do you think she's going to do anything specifically for black people? Or, I mean, technically she can't really do anything. She has to be impartial, but we already know she's not impartial. So do you think that she will, in any way, you know, improve the situation with these super gremlins on Demon Time? So anyways, we're going to get out of here, man. I appreciate everybody for joining. You already know what it is, man. It is the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. And we are going to go to Jen Quavius to send us home.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Ketanji Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car. I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.